Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Words of Truth. I'm Pastor Jack Ward along with Pastor Sam Schmidt, and we're here again, Sam, with another number 6 of our series.
Six, and they haven't taken us off the air yet. They don't know where we're at. We're hiding. We do these underground in secret, like the Chinese church. We practice in secret where nobody can see us. So that's why they've not taken us off yet, Jack.
They is we. I mean, that podcasting is so great because you're not regulated. You can practically do anything you want to do, right?
We can say whatever we want. Jack's got a good agenda put together, but I want to interrupt and say, Jack, let's take these next 20 seconds, since we're not regulated, to say whatever we want.
Whatever we want.
Yes. I don't like baloney. That's my first statement.
You don't?
I don't like baloney, no.
Well, let me say this, without any hesitation or fear of reprisal. I love baloney. Especially from people. Politicians.
You know, this is you get a lot of it.
I am so glad today is the last day. This is election day if you're listening to this by tape. I am so glad for this day because the political ads will end on TV. I can finally watch Wheel of Fortune in peace.
You can see Vanna White and all her class and Pat Sajak. Man, he's sharp, isn't he?
I love Pat Sajak.
He's brilliant.
He's a creationist.
Is he? No, is
yes,
he really?
He is.
You mean he's a Christian creationist?
I don't know if he's a Christian, but he is a creationist, and he argues that all the time on blogs.
Well, it seems like it would be hard for you not to be a Christian if you're a creationist. Now, I mean, I realize you can believe something created all this.
Yes, that's basically where he's at.
But it seems like creationism goes hand in hand with belief of God of some way. Of course, even Muslims.
Of course, it goes in with belief in God, but when it comes to Jesus, that's a different thing.
So we don't like baloney. And I actually
like baloney.
Jack doesn't. Jack likes baloney.
I like baloney.
Jack, I'm with you. I'm glad today that the ads are stopping because I'm sick of all these ads by Jack Conway that are just so relentless. And I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but go out and vote. It's a civil duty of every American to vote, and we need to vote.
Yes, we hope that you have voted by the time that you listen to this, but.
I hope that Matt Bevin has won, since no reprisal, no fear. I hope Matt Bevin has won by the time you're listening to this.
The only thing you have to fear is fear itself.
It's fear itself.
And people getting mad at you for your opinions.
And that happens a lot. Let me share that real quick, since you said that, Jack. It seems like in today's world, nobody can share their opinion anymore without ticking somebody off. Why is that?
We're too sensitive. We're just a sensitive bunch of mealy-mouthed babies who can't stand up, who don't know what we believe or why we believe it. And we're so narrow-minded and focused on the one thing. If somebody upsets our little apple cart, we just get all over and we can't handle it internally, and we don't know how to deal with it.
We don't like when people put peaches in the apple cart, do we, Jack?
No, that's seriously, it's true.
It is. We're very
peaches
sensitive.
Will ruin an apple cart, and people don't want their little apple carts messed with.
That's sad. And Jack is right. I believe he's 100% right. We live in a very sensitive world today. People can't handle criticism, and looks like Jack had mentioned on our agenda today. One thing we'll talk about is people who are self-esteem is being destroyed by media because they're so sensitive. Yeah. Social media is not the best thing, but there's a lot of good things that can come from it, like this podcast. Amen.
Amen.
And there's a lot of fun things that we can have with social media, but social media is really rough at times. But people have altogether just become very, very sensitive, and we just need to grow up and put our big boy pants on and just move forward, don't we, Jack?
There is a lot of narcissism in this world, and that is when basically a mirror was invented for you. I mean, narcissism is when people have a unhealthy view of themselves. They feel like the world revolves around them. And we have a lot of that today because of things like social media.
Yes.
Kids will even kids at my church will have their thumbs on their phones and their iPads right after service or right before service, and that's how they talk to people. And everything on social media is geared toward them. No, I'm not saying my kids in church are selfish. I got the best kids in the world that go to our church, and they're not.
No, we got you on tape. They heard it.
Yeah.
They're done. They're going to come to Inez First Baptist next week. Kids, just call me, 606-465-7119. Tell me where you live. I'll bring the bus by Sunday.
I'm afraid, to be honest. No, they're fine. But kids can be so overwhelmed and with themselves on social media.
Yes.
And that's the fear I have. Kate Winslet, the famous moralist and sociologist, you know her from the Titanic fame.
That was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But go ahead. I'm being serious.
We
Jack's giving me a
disagree again.
death
I
glare.
love the Titanic.
Who would want to see a movie that depicts thousands of people drowning in a frozen sea as just as awful? It was a horrible, tragic event, but why do we need to relive that? I mean, just heartbreaking, the band playing Nearer, My God, to the people jumping off and plummeting to their death. And you want to say that's good, wholesome entertainment, Jack? You like that? Well, I always knew you were morbid, but today that's been confirmed.
I guess I'm wrong.
So Kate Winslet.
No, it was a great movie. It's the human stories and the human interest, the human suffering that we all go through in life. That's part of life is tragedies and the human story, and it's a story told.
Yes.
It's more about the survivors. You been to the Titanic Museum?
No, I haven't.
It's very interesting to see those artifacts.
The one in Gatlinburg?
Yeah.
That's just a tourist attraction. They just get people to come because they got a big boat. Out front, they got a big boat. It's probably paper mache with a lot of glue.
It worked.
You went.
Twice. I've been twice.
Kate Winslet. I'm sorry, Jack. Kate Winslet.
But anyway,
you went twice? Wait, hold on just a second. We'll get to Kate Winslet. You went to the Titanic Museum twice?
A couple years ago when it first opened, and I went this summer.
Was there anything new? I guarantee.
Yes,
No, there wasn't.
They've
You're
changed.
full of it.
They hear a little stories now in a little headset that you get. I recommend if you're interested in things.
I'll
like
tell you
that.
what they did in those 2 years. They took everything in that museum and they just rearranged it, and it makes you feel like you're getting a new experience.
Have you been to the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame?
Yes, it was fantastic.
What's the difference?
The difference is one is interesting and the other's boring. one of them depicts human suffering and is awful, and the other one's human suffering too.
If you're a Reds fan,
it's suffering.
It is the human story. Sports is a human story, and the Titanic. I love museums. I love going to military museums. And they're very interesting because my father was a World War II veteran. My uncle was a World War II veteran.
God bless him for their service, absolutely.
And they used to tell me stories. My dad always told me war stories and loved to talk about them. And I find anything like that. That just made me interested in history, Civil War, World War II. I have relatives that served in the Civil War. They're not alive today. I know I'm old.
Which side did they fight for?
The North.
The North. Which side would you have fought for?
I would have fought for states' rights.
The states' rights.
That would be the South.
Oh, goodness.
No, I don't know. I've been with the North. But I understand why the South fought. But we're getting to another thing here. The South fought for states' rights, not just slavery. Slavery would have probably died away in the next 5 years anyway. But that's controversial.
That's a whole other issue. And even though Jack has been to this museum twice, I'll try to let it go and we'll move
Kate
on.
Winslet was not there. That was
okay. That would be more interesting. I would be more interested in going if she was not there.
Well, she was not there.
The Days of Our Lives crew.
Yes.
They were there, weren't they?
They're coming there at the end of this month. Let's go.
You know that to
it's
me.
The last Saturday of the month. I know you want to see them.
If I was on that show and I was going to the Titanic Museum, that would. I wonder if that's foreshadowing anything of that show. Is it just going to plummet? I would be concerned.
Yeah, it's
but
going
if
to sink.
I definitely
only been on 50 years. It's probably not going to survive.
I definitely don't want to be in the Titanic Museum, and I sure don't want to go if that man who wears a pirate eye patch and that whole cast from Days of Our Lives is going to be there, because that show is just so ridiculous and over the top. Kate Winslet, go ahead, Jack.
But you know what? It makes money.
It does make a lot. It's the ridiculous things that make money today, isn't it?
Well, anyway, why was I mentioning the Titanic for?
Kate Winslet.
She said that social media is ruining her children and ruining their self-esteem. Now, I agree with everything, but this thing about our kids having to have self-esteem. Listen, kids grow up thinking they're the whole world. We have to fight our whole lives to get self-esteem out of our children, thinking the world doesn't revolve around them, and they kind to others and share, and that's not yours, and give that back. I mean, how many times do you do that in a day? You're going to go through it.
Oh, I'm going through it now, yes.
You can't take that. Stop doing that. Mm-hmm. You can't say that. Stop, don't. I mean, because of their low self-esteem? No, they got a high self-esteem. Studies have shown, and I did prison ministry for 15 years. I never ran into a prisoner in all that time that had low self-esteem. They thought none of them were guilty, and it was all their dad's fault or somebody else's fault.
They're all innocent.
They were all innocent. It was somebody else's fault. Why does this have to happen to me? I mean, I don't understand why everybody's against me. I mean, it's just pathetic.
Well, you know what Dad always says, and when he preaches, he'll say something about little kids. You'll notice you never have to teach a child how to be selfish. You have to teach them how to share.
Right.
You have to teach them how to share. You say we're very we're very egotistical, self-centered people, very narcissistic, like Jack says. And to illustrate that, Jack, if you find out someone doesn't like you, usually the first thought that comes through your mind is, "Why don't they like me?" As if to say, "What's not to love about me?" I'm the greatest person I know. Why don't they like me? Why wouldn't they love me? But we live in a very self-centered, instant gratification world. The kids that we're raising today are monsters. They're absolute monsters. And they think that the world revolves just around them. And I'm a millennial. And I would apologize to all of our listeners on behalf of my generation because we're a horrible, terrible, self-absorbed, self-centered, narcissistic, egotistical generation. As a matter of fact, many generational scholars and studiers would label my generation as the entitled generation.
Yeah.
They feel that they're entitled. But now, here's the problem with it, Jack. The older generations made us this way. They really did.
Yes, it's their fault.
It's
not your fault.
It's exactly. See, there we go. But what happened?
Explain yourself.
Yes, let me explain myself. What happened? You're dealing. The parents of millennials. You've got a few Gen Xers, and then mostly baby boomers. Now, baby boomers love to spend, and they love to spend, and they love to spend money, and they go through money very quickly. And part of that is because baby boomers, their parents were builders, or the silent generation.
They were.
And those people went through the Great Depression. So those were the people that were more inclined to hide money under their bed. They didn't trust banks. They were very frugal, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. But what happened at, say, Christmas time and birthdays, their kids, baby boomers, didn't really get much of anything. They didn't get anything growing up because their parents didn't have, pardon my French, a pot to pee in. They didn't have much of anything. And so as baby boomers, as their kids began to grow up, you know what they did with their kids at Christmas time? Well, they overcompensated. They gave them everything they never had.
Right.
They gave them the lifestyle they wanted. And so now scholars say that when a kid graduates, he tries to attain his parents' level of living in the first 5 years after he leaves school.
That's right.
He tries to get that, so he buys big vehicles, buys big homes, gets married, and buys and buys and buys up. And in 5 years, he will try to attain the same level of living that his parents, it took their life to work for.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's fault. It's not just one generation's fault. Mostly probably my generation is to blame. But, baby boomers had a part in that and as well in making us this way. And we've got an instant gratification. Do you get on Amazon, Jack?
No.
Okay, good for you. But there's, you've got things like Amazon where you can click one button and get stuff now delivered right to your house.
I don't even have a credit card.
Good for you.
I have a $400 credit card that I use to travel with.
Well, that's really all you need because they're nothing but problems. I'd say most millionaires don't own credit cards. They don't need them. But my point.
Well, they have one and they pay it off each month. That's usually how. That's the best thing to do if you can do it.
Sure it is. And my point being with all this is that we've created a younger people who now, when you play sports, Jack, everybody gets a trophy, and it's the same trophy.
That irks me.
Winners don't get a big... Everybody gets a participation trophy.
Parents get mad if Bobby Joe doesn't get a trophy.
Even though he got last place and didn't win a single game and went over, he went 0 for 25 and struck out 18 times. Bobby Joe doesn't deserve a trophy. He needs to go practice and get better, and then come back and get on a winning team.
There's nothing wrong with losing.
Life is about losing, isn't it?
We were talking about earlier, when we were talking about the Titanic and the Reds Museum, it's life. What was the term I used? It's the cycle of life. It's just life. You can't win them all. I was a loser. I made an error.
You still are a loser.
I made an error. 2 outs, bases loaded. We were ahead by 1 run. The last game of the championship in the
How long ago was this?
I was 15.
And you're still not over it.
No, I'm not. I still remember it. I get a little ground ball. I'm playing third base. I was a foot from the third base bag. Touched the bag, and we're the champions.
Mm.
I missed the ball. It trickled away. Then I kicked it into the outfield, and we lost.
Wow. See, and I actually wrote down.
How did that affect me? You know what I did when I got home?
What?
I went out and played wiffle ball with my brother. Never thought a thing about it until people at school, the adults, started saying, Jack, why did you miss that ball? I never had one teammate say anything to me because we didn't care. We just wanted to play. We wanted to win, yes. But we moved on. We lost. We moved on. But I had parents tell me, Jack, you cost us a championship. Jack, you missed that ball. Then I got to thinking about it. Did I hurt? Did I cause everybody to be mad?
Wow.
So if the kids were fine, it's the adults.
Jack actually said something that I wrote down that I love. There's nothing wrong with losing.
No.
It is okay to lose.
Yes.
Not everybody can be a winner in this life.
No.
In sports or whatever. When I played T-ball or whatever it was, when I played coach's pitch in Little League, you know what we did? We played a game and we would go home that night, and you know what we would do that night? We would watch professional wrestling. We would just move on and forget about it. And the next day when we went to school, we didn't even talk about the game last night. We talked about wrestling or whatever we did.
Yeah.
It was the farthest thing from our mind. It upset our parents more than us when we lost.
Kids are more resilient than we think. You know, these UK basketball players, Kentucky starts their season out. Well, they had a close game last night, didn't they?
Gosh.
117 to 58. But we agonize over UK, but these players, yeah, they want to win, but they're not agonizing over it like we are. I mean, they're just kids.
And
they're
listen,
just enjoying themselves.
Everybody was so devastated that last year they were, 32-0 and then got beat by Wisconsin.
38-0.
38-0. 38-0. I'm losing my mind. And they got beat by Wisconsin. And we labored. And I remember we came to church that Sunday, and our people were just so torn up and devastated. And we thought about that for months and months and months. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with losing.
Carl Anthony Towns came to the Ashland Town Center the next week and was laughing and having a great time, and people loved him. Mm-hmm. And was he? Yeah, I'm sorry we lost. We wanted to win. But he was happy. I mean, you can't let sports losing. You can't let losing define you. I mean, everybody's going to lose. You can't win everything. That's something we need to teach our kids. My dad was my baseball coach, and he never called me a loser. He never said, Jack, it's your fault. He never said, I never heard anything like that from him. He just said, let's go get us an ice cream. I mean,
there you go.
He never said a word. And I lost another game, too, in Little League.
Jack, you're just a
we
chronic
were playing
loser.
In the championship game, and I was pitching. I came in relief and gave up the winning run. So
oh my goodness! Well, you know, and if it doesn't work any better for you, you may lose your retirement from the U.S. Postal Service. You just.
But you know, I didn't want to peak. Here's the way I figure it: I didn't want to peak in Little League. I didn't want to peak in Pony League, and I didn't make the high school team. We didn't have a high school baseball team, so I couldn't mess that up. So there's no doubt. You know that commercial where peaked in high school, that DirecTV commercial?
Oh, yeah, peaked in high school. Rob Lowe peaked in high school.
I think about that all the time. I think about that commercial, and I think, Lord, thank you that I was such a loser, so I didn't peak in high school, so I could continue to grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord.
That's right. So we can just, and I think a lesson that we need to teach our kids today is there's nothing wrong with losing.
No,
it's
losing
okay to lose because, you know, not everybody's a winner. And so I think, and we'll get off this subject. I know I'm dragging it on. But I think, you know, if you teach your kids that they always win, they always get a trophy, you know, they always, no matter if they got 18th place, they get a trophy as big as the first place champion or whatever. I think what we're slowly teaching them, we're not teaching them how to cope with loss. And so as they get older, they run into problems and they just fall apart when they have to suffer in the real world. We don't teach them how to deal with adversity. And so they get into the real world and they get a bad grade in college or someone doesn't like them and they don't know how to handle it because they've never dealt with adversity.
They've never dealt with it. My first lesson in losing actually came when I was at 4-H and I had to give a 4-H speech. Me and Mickey McCoy were the only two giving a 4-H speech for the whole county. There was blue ribbon was a winner, gold was second, and red was third. There was only two of us. So Mickey gives his speech. He was done an excellent job. I did my speech and did an absolutely horrible job. But I thought, hey, I'm going to get a gold ribbon. Well, when they gave out their ribbons, I couldn't even... Mickey got the blue, of course. And I thought, well, I'm going to get a gold ribbon. They wouldn't even give me a gold ribbon. They gave me a red ribbon for third place. And there were only 2 of them.
Oh, my gosh.
That should have been a hint that... Mr. Ward, you're going to be a loser.
Two things about this really trouble me, Jack. The first thing that really troubles me is your ability to lose and lose and lose and lose some more. Jack, it seems like you've lost a lot in this life. That troubles me, firstly. Secondly, what troubles me is how well you remember this, that it stuck with you all these years. I'm afraid, are you over it, or are you still dealing with it?
This has been very therapeutic.
Yes.
I am now. I'm 59. I've held this all these years.
Well, it's good to finally let it go then.
Well, it's just an illustration, and I really can't remember. I'm trying to think, did I ever win at anything? Not really. But anyway, I had this very successful 37 years with the Postal Service.
Yes, that's got to count for something, right?
I married a wonderful lady, Cindy.
She is too good for you.
And I have a great church. I don't know why the Lord blessed me with a wonderful church like I have. And all the blessings, friends I have. I mean, it's not about the points on the scoreboard. Somebody said... And I don't like this. It is about the points on the scoreboard when you're playing a game.
Yes.
I'm not for... You were talking about everybody getting a participation trophy. They're talking about even not having a scoreboard. How un-American is that?
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
It hurts them.
Why even have a game if there's no scoreboard?
Because it's participation. Good for...
It hurts them if they're behind.
Why don't you just throw a ball out there and let them run around and kick it? We have a game like that. It's called soccer.
This is a part of a communistic society here because everybody's on the same level. There's no winners. There's what happens when they get in the real world and their executive is making $100,000 more than them? What are they going to do? Well, I think I deserve the same salary because it's not about the points on the scoreboard. Come on, man.
Well, on the flip side, it's okay to lose, but we should celebrate winning.
Yes.
Because the Lord is going to reward us. He's going to give us, there's 5 crowns that we can attain. The Lord says He's going to reward us for faithfulness. There's the judgment seat of Christ coming up for all of us that trust in Jesus Christ. And He is going to reward us, and then we're going to have the marriage supper of the Lamb. So we are going to be rewarded for our faithfulness, not for what we did, but our motivation behind it. Did we do it for Jesus? Do we do it for ourselves? And that is exciting that the Lord, and that's why we should reward those who do well and succeed.
Yes, and we should try to win, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with winning. It's a good thing, and even in the Christian walk, we should try to be winning because even when we get to Philippians chapter 3, Paul says, I'm pressing on and I'm trying to reach out and grab that first place prize, that thing that's been laid out by Christ Jesus for me. So he says in verse 14, I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call. So he says, I'm looking to win this.
Yeah.
I'm looking to get to that goal and reach for the prize. And so in our Christian life, I think we should try to win and be successful, but ultimately remembering that it's not about how many points we score, and points do matter, but it's more than just that, right?
It's our service for Christ and reaching toward the goal of being the best we can be for our Lord.
Yes, that's the way to put it. And so there's nothing wrong with losing.
We won't always be our best, but we're not going to win every person to Christ. We're not going to be perfect on every meal we prepare, ladies, or men.
Ain't that the truth, man? Gosh, listen, I've had some downers. I mean, and my wife will tell you the same thing since we've been married. Man, she's made some good meals, Jack, but there have been a couple of downers along the way.
You're the most courageous man in America.
I'm not going to have a place to sleep. Well, I know that now that you're retired, you emptied out your office and it's cleaned out and you put a bed in there, so I can come sleep in there. I've got a place to stay. Well, no, even the other day, my wife cooked breakfast, and I don't know what she did with the gravy, and she didn't know what she did with it either, but it was, it was kindly like paste. It just wasn't, she's had some winners and losers. But you're right, not everybody, what have I said? Oh, gosh, we need to delete all this.
We just don't know how to edit, so whatever
we're in trouble.
Whatever is said, stays said.
You're not going to cook every meal, and if you're a man, you're not always going to say the right thing.
No,
are you? So,
in your case, obviously not.
That's exactly right. So it's okay to mess up. Winning's not everything.
That's right. All the losses I had as a kid were just to teach me perseverance and hang in there, stick with it. Nobody gave me anything. Nobody said, "Oh, Jack, let's play that again. You didn't mean to drop it." That's the way it is. And it teaches you toughness and perseverance, and you got to move on.
That's right.
And move on to the next play. That's the way I've always taken life.
Yes.
Lots of setbacks in life. But anyway, that was Kate Winslet. How we got to that.
Baseball and trophies and Titanic. And
but her problem
gravy.
was, her thing is, and I agree with her, that all this social media is leading to self-addiction and can lead to people, girls especially, and they're seeing these perfect ladies and the pressure to be perfect and the eating disorders that can cause. And she said that we don't have any social media in our house. Now, my wife and I do not do social media at all because I just feel like that's just one less place I can get myself in trouble. Because I'm like you, I'm outspoken. I don't care a bit to say what I feel, and my wife has banned me from social media. She says you can have your website, you can do the podcast with Sam and preach, but that's it.
That's it. No more.
No more. I'm not going to live.
And you said, yes, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely.
Sonny Ward always says there are 3 keys to the longevity of marriage. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Those are the 3 keys to a long and happy marriage. You know how many of those I've learned so far? Well, not as many as I should have.
Well, there's only 3. You can do it. Okay. Moving on, we have a... we want to save that. We got the Heretic of the Week coming up. We're going to give you a chance to help us weigh in on the tribulation thermometer. What do we call it? The
index.
Tribulation index. We're going to do that later on. We're going to have our Heretic of the Week, and you're going to be very interested in that. But we want to talk a little about election, and today we have Election Day in Kentucky, and I guess Ohio is having an election we want to talk about. Is they're going to decide on marijuana, legalizing the use of marijuana. And this is not just medicinal marijuana, is it? It's just recreational marijuana too, right? Because I'm not sure about it.
That's how I interpreted it, but I understand that I could be wrong. But Ohio is having that on their ballot today. They're voting to whether or not they will legalize cannabis in their state. And I guess you said that's kindly been spearheaded and promoted by Nick Lachey?
Nick Lachey, who is known for what? Was he in a boy band? And he was married to some lady.
Jessica Simpson, that's right.
Jessica Simpson.
It's actually, they're voting on whether to decide if they will be the first U.S. Midwestern state that will legalize the recreational use. Not just medicinal, this is recreational use. So, absolutely. What good has pot done for anybody? Let's be honest. Marijuana, what good has it brought to this world?
Here's what they'll tell you. Medicinal use.
They will, and they'll say that it's never killed anybody.
1/10 of 1% that'll use it for that.
That's right.
Marijuana is a recreational what? Drug.
Yes.
And those things have to be controlled, and it's not like a pill for high blood pressure or that will save your life.
Yes.
The only use for marijuana is to get a high. Let's face it. Now, when I went to Morehead State University, I always smelled this strange smell coming from the dorm. I stayed in a dorm all those 4 years, and I was so naive. I had no idea what that smell was. I'd have thought it was just stinky clothes. I don't know. Till finally, I was a senior in college before somebody pointed out to me, Jack, that's pot.
And you wonder why you're hungry all the time.
Yeah, I was starving all the time. And needless to say, I never had any interest in stuff like that.
Well, I can honestly say I've never smoked marijuana in my life, and nor do I ever plan on it.
But you can now if you want to. You go to Ohio.
I can go to Ohio if this
they
passes.
pass it.
Well, they're not sure if it's going to pass. It looks like it's split right down the middle. But something that is concerning is that the I think it's Ian James is his name. He's the executive director for Responsible Ohio. And you know what aggravates me is when they're looking to bring these initiatives, they always coin it with very clever and good-natured names. Like the organization that wants pot in Ohio is called Responsible Ohio. Like bringing marijuana, a $30 billion industry, to Ohio is responsible. And, you know, that marijuana is going to fall into the hands of kids and yada, yada, yada. But what's really troubling is he said that they had reached out to over 1 million house visits, 1 million visits in Ohio to different houses. And they've really focused on, and this shows what kind of organization they are, they focused on college campuses. Because they know that kids at that age are impressionable and they want to do wild and crazy things, and they're going to come out in strong numbers to vote to try to legalize marijuana for recreational use. But it's sad. The vote will come to Kentucky, I think. It'll come here eventually. It'll hit all 50 states, and I'm sure it's eventually going to be legalized in all 50 states. It's just something else that we have to deal with.
Well, Ohio, Nick Lachey has bought a bunch of agricultural property up there, and him and some investors are wanting to invest in marijuana. They say it can be a $30 billion crop for the state of Ohio. $30 billion. That's why they want to get involved in it. They want to make money. Another reason they want to legalize pot is they don't want to arrest people anymore and put them in jail. That's reason number. First reason is they want the money from it. Secondly, is the jails are so overcrowded. They're trying to just let people go that smoke pot. I mean,
and so what happens? You know, there's a lot of rapists and serial killers. Are we just going to overlook those now to let them go? I'm preaching revival at Grayson First Baptist Church. I'm going to give the shameless plug right now. If you live at all in the Carter County area, come to Grayson First Baptist tonight at 7 p.m. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. I'm preaching revival services there. We've had a lot of fun. We've seen some decisions, and God has really worked. But last night I preached out of Proverbs chapter 22. 3 things no person needs. No person needs a bad name, no person needs a big debt, and no person needs a bad temper. Those were 3 things that nobody needs. You know, talked about the thing that we need above all is Jesus. But, you know, there's a lot of things we need, but there's a lot of things we don't need. And that first one, nobody needs a bad name. In Proverbs chapter 22, Jack, Solomon says that a good name is greater and more important than riches and gold and silver. Literally, when you mention, you know, the $30 billion industry and how Nick Lachey and all these people are buying into it, you know, they're not worried about a good name, they're worried about money. They don't care how it looks on them, and it's all about money. But Solomon says, and Solomon had all the wealth in the world that anybody could possibly want. Solomon knew that a good name was better than all that he'd accumulated and all the riches and wealth. And so, you know, that would be my idea to people who want to profit from this lucrative business, is that a good name is far more important than money or wealth, riches.
Most people don't care about that.
They don't.
Well, another thing about marijuana is that it's an entry-level hallucinogenic drug.
Now you're preaching.
And that's what it's always been. It leads to other drugs.
That's right.
It's a hallucinogenic drug. You can't get away from that. And we're going to let this... Of course, college students will vote for it because people want to be free to try it every now and then. And they want to be free not to have to face jail time. And police don't have to arrest people for smoking marijuana. It's one of those things where they... You know, it's not that egregious. It's just marijuana. Do we have to put people in jail? I mean, yes, you do. If it's illegal, you got to do it. I know our jails are overcrowded, but the NFL will not allow you to smoke marijuana if you play football.
Yeah. So why should you be allowed to do it with any other profession? Because if you're an NFL player, that's not just a fun job. That's a job.
Any sport, major sport, will not allow you to smoke.
It's marijuana. A profession, and why should anybody else allow you to smoke it? So I'm sure the time's coming where they're going to have to vote on that, whether or not it's legal to do that. Or
I don't think they'll ever let you smoke marijuana and play sports. That's just too dangerous because it's a mind-altering drug.
It is. And Jack mentioned something that I'll touch on, and then we can move forward, Jack, to the next item on the agenda. But Jack said that it's an entry-level drug. As a matter of fact, one of our drug court attorneys here, he attends church here very faithfully, great man of God, he says that the big drug right now in eastern Kentucky is heroin.
Yeah.
It's now heroin. we've slowly climbed up the ladder. We've moved from marijuana, we've moved up to pills and hydrocodone, and now then methamphetamine, and these highs aren't getting good enough, and so people are now stepping up to heroin because it's easy to afford, it's easily accessible, and it gives you a better high. But what happens is once you do this over and over repeatedly, say with marijuana or alcohol, it takes more alcohol to get drunk. It takes more pills to get high. Now you move up to heroin. You get the next thing that's cheap and easy. Marijuana is an entry-level drug.
That's right. When I was young, we used to call men that drank alcohol every day drunkards.
Drunkards.
We didn't have a pretty word like alcoholic. We didn't call it a disease. We
Wow.
called them lazy, shiftless
Wow.
drunkards.
And now drunkard would offend people today.
Oh, yeah, you can't call them that because it's a disease. It's not their fault. We're going back to that thing with Kate Winslet. It's not their fault.
It's not my fault I'm overweight. Obesity's a disease. It's not my fault. Come on, man. Listen, my hand stuffs Krispy Kreme donuts down my throat, and I can't help it. It's a disease.
You can't help that.
Gosh.
It's just our society in this. It's maddening. It will drive you mad.
Yes.
When you read the news and you talk to people, and to think that Ohio, isn't that that's a blue state, isn't it?
No, not
They're a red state. Which one's conservative? I forgot.
Red's conservative,
Red.
right?
Are they a red state?
No. Last election they weren't.
They're not.
They were.
But I
think for both of Bush's elections they were. It depends. Ohio.
Northern part's probably
Ohio. Yeah, it
southern.
is. You've got Columbus, which is a good conservative city, and the reason is because everybody that lives there is from Martin County. They're transplants. It's a good conservative city, but then Cincinnati's got a pretty healthy mix of it. Cleveland is very liberal. Akron, as you get north, you run into the liberal parts of the city because if you look, they're pretty close to some big cities. West there in Illinois.
Well, you got Cincinnati, Dayton,
Indiana, excuse me.
They're heavily Catholic, and southeastern Ohio is probably your most conservative part of Ohio, and Columbus, because of that. You're right, that Kentucky culture.
See, even there are some good things in Ohio, and it's Kentucky transplants.
That's right. But I'm just surprised that Ohio would even be coming up for something like this. That is just shocking to me. But, it's money. Okay, what are we going to talk about next?
But I want to get to the heretic already. I'm tired of putting this off.
The heretic. You've got it. Now, I've got a nomination, and I don't know if it'll make it.
Actually, if I can see underneath this, it looks like Jack's got about 10 different nominations.
I've got a bunch of nominations.
There's never a shortage of heretics,
no,
are there, Jack?
You can always go to these.
I'm
guys.
looking at one right now. And
me?
No, I was looking. I was looking over at the funeral home there. You thought, Jack, you thought I was looking at you. No, I'm kidding. There's nobody out there, and I'm not looking at heretic. But there is no shortage of heretics.
There is never a shortage, and it's the trouble we have is deciding who is most heretic of all the heretics.
That's right. Who's the most heretical?
Heretical.
Who's more heretical? And it's going to be hard to top Oprah Winfrey last week. So who's our list so far of heretics of the week?
We had Oprah Winfrey. We had the lady
Laura Young,
and the
Campbell Soup.
And we had Campbell Soup.
Was that it?
Yeah, we've had only 3. We only started this 3 shows ago. But my nominee is the Passion Church in Minneapolis.
Passion Church in Minneapolis.
Passion. How do you say it? Passion Church of Minneapolis.
Well, is it just the Passion Church?
It's just the Passion.
Okay,
Church.
if you with a name like that, they're definitely heretics. You don't even have to describe it to me, but I want you to. Let's hear about the Passion Church.
The Passion Church in Minneapolis celebrated Halloween with a special service. I think it was Friday night. And in that service, they had. Let's see if we can pull it up.
This is ridiculous.
They wanted to do a special service for Halloween, so they called it their Thriller service, and we're looking at a picture of it right now.
Oh my gosh.
And they had the sets of the ghouls and the tombstones and the spider webs and the mist and the darkness and all these people dressed up as zombies dancing around.
Oh my gosh.
This was a church service.
They did it twice.
This is a church service, and kids were involved in this. Now, can you imagine people of Inez First Baptist Church and Tomahawk Missionary Baptist Church walking into our church for a special service Friday night to celebrate the devil. And we have all these ghouls dancing around. Great scenery. I mean, it probably cost $30,000 to put all the scenery up and all the costumes.
Oh my God!
And then they have Michael Jackson's Thriller and a guy dancing like Michael Jackson. The church starts with this guy in a red jacket dancing like Michael Jackson with a shadow on him.
Now let me share a couple things about this. Now that I'm on this
church
website,
service.
it is. It's not just like a Saturday night event. This is October 18th and 25th at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. This was their church service. Four services. Four Sunday morning services. Listen to this. Here's what they say. This is how they're trying to justify it. And anybody can try to justify themselves. It says, they say people are only born with two fears. The fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Do you think people are born with more fears than that?
Oh, I would think so.
I have been afraid of crocodiles, man-eating crocodiles since I was a little kid.
Yes, I'm afraid of man-eating sharks.
Man-eating sharks. Are you really?
Yes,
I'm afraid of.
I don't understand why.
I'm afraid of bad breath. I'm afraid that I have.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm afraid I have a mental disorder, and everybody knows it but me, and they've just been kind of not telling me. And I'm. So no, it says fears are learned. And then it goes on and says, join us for this special series on overcoming fear and enjoy a live performance of Michael Jackson's Thriller. What? Are you serious? Now look, it continues on here in text, and it says, the Thriller series is not intended for children. These church services aren't for kids.
We strongly
That's what they're
encourage
saying.
all attendees to allow their children to enjoy the Passion Kids morning experience that will be going on at the same time next door.
They even had a special kids costume parade the Sunday before the performances. But it says, hey, listen, guys, we're going to have a service here where we celebrate Halloween. We celebrate Michael Jackson's Thriller. We all get up there and dance and make complete buffoons of ourselves. But this is not intended for kids. Don't bring your children to church, because this worship service is, Jesus didn't say anything like suffer not the little children, and he says, didn't say anything like that at all. This is for adults.
This sounds like, Jesus is definitely not in that church. It sounds like Moses went up to the mountain, and when he was away, the people played. It sounds
I preached on that the night before last.
I think of this church
I really did.
Is playing while Jesus is away.
I love that. Somebody's playing and Jesus is gone. He is not here.
Well, how do you rate them? Is that going to make our Heretic of the Week?
Well, let's look at this.
You've got a good
out
one.
Of 10, I know, you've trumped me. Out of 10, I'm looking at all the other ones. Laura Young was our first one. She's about a 15 out of 10. Maybe 25.
Just tell them what Laura Young did.
Yeah, she was the one who said we needed to bless Planned Parenthood.
She went to an abortion clinic and had a blessing.
Yeah, had a blessing.
Planned
and it looked like she was there with her girlfriend or something.
Yeah, and had a blessing.
She's a heretic, first off, because she's a woman and she's not a pastor. I don't care what she says. She's a heretic for that. And I would remind our listeners, we don't need to be afraid of using the word heretic.
No.
We just need
and
to call
naming names.
No, absolutely not. So I've got some heretics in my church. Can I name names?
Name
I'm kidding. I don't have any. Or if I did, I wouldn't share. So she was a 15 out of 10. Campbell's Soup out of 10. What do you think they rank, Jack?
Well, there could be Christians working for Campbell's Soup. So.
Oh, gosh.
Here we go.
There we go. So maybe an 8.
Let's give them an 8.
An 8. Oprah.
I love Campbell's Soup.
I love this soup.
Stop drinking it.
It gives you those nice big tree trunk legs from all the sodium.
I'm not going to stop eating it and drinking it.
Yes. You have to drink that stuff. You have to drink. Well, no, I'm going to rephrase that. I think you have to eat it. You know, they have these soups to go that you can drink. You really have to eat them because there's so much salt. The soup is so thick. It's really like it's like a parfait. It's not a soup.
Well,
Oprah. What's Oprah? We know that.
60.
She's
She's leading the world astray. Nobody knows about Laura Young. The thing that's dangerous about Oprah is she's leading the whole world.
Yeah, she's about a 500. So the Passion Church.
Passion Church.
I would give them a solid.
They're up there. I mean, that's just.
They're a 9-10 borderline.
Yeah, they're a 10.
They're a 10.
As far as his sermon, we can click online here and hear his sermon. I'm sure it'll be enlightening. But we'll probably not do that.
Well, it says that it shows their live performance on here of Thriller. I wonder if it shows their. Are you serious? Wow.
I mean, it's a great performance if that's what you want.
Man, this is a good show. Well, people here
We're going to watch this after the show.
People go to this to see a show. They don't go to hear the gospel.
Well, let's talk about people are born with only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. So what? You're not going to stop that. That's just self-preservation.
I think people are born with
You're
fear.
going to have
A fear of death. Surely there's a fear of death, right? So, well, here's
fear of the IRS. I mean,
yeah, that's right. Fear of tax evasion. I mean, they're going to catch me.
Fear of jail.
They're going to catch me one day, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, so
But,
Jack had this Passion Church, and my nomination for Heretic of the Week was the CNBC moderators. I'd give them a solid 8. They did a horrible job during the debate, but I don't even want to talk about that. I want to come back to Passion Church. They're definitely the Heretic of the Week. So, I mean, I've got a nice handy-dandy list here. And
but we need to say a little bit about CNBC and how they kind of lowball questions, trying to gotcha questions is what they ask. I didn't watch the debate because I knew that's what it would be.
Those moderators staged that in an attempt to ensnare and discredit and ridicule and embarrass through the super PAC media of Hillary Clinton.
That's exactly
the Republican nominees. That's the only reason that existed. I loved what Rubio said when he and I think it worked out better for the Republican candidates the way that it ended. And I loved Cruz and Rubio and Huckabee, and I thought they all did good. I even thought Christie did all right, even though I wouldn't vote for him. Well, I mean, I probably would, but I thought they did good because it really unified the candidates. It's the first time they've been united. Yeah, they started slapping around. But Ted Cruz, he hammered it when he said, this just shows why the American people distrust the media. And that lawyer came out in him, and he remembered every single question they had asked. He said, you're asking Trump who he's going to mock next. You're asking Huckabee what he thinks if Trump has the moral capabilities to lead the nation. You asked Jeb Bush about this. He said, you asked this guy about this. He said, it just goes to show you why the American people hates the media.
Yeah.
And then Rubio said, Hillary Clinton has a super PAC, it's the media. I thought it was hilarious.
Well, it's just ridiculous. I mean, what really good are these debates doing anyway? Have they really changed anybody's mind?
Yes, and they have for me somewhat.
I think it's hurt Trump, this last one. I think people are finally
realizing,
catching on that
it's a gimmick.
Yeah, but
it's not lasting.
I don't think it will last, but I think he sincerely wants to change America. I think he sincerely wants to do the right thing. We like a guy who stands up to these bullies and just tells them, "Hey, I got more money than you. You can't stop me."
I liked him for that. I liked him for that. As a matter of fact, I think that the debates do help in some sense because pre-debates, this was my top 3. As crazy as this may sound, Huckabee was my first guy. Carson was my second guy. And believe it or not, Donald Trump was my third guy. And it's not because he's a good moral person, but I don't think he would be a bad president financially speaking. I think he could do good. I know he's ludicrous. I know he's a schemer, and I know
how could we be any worse off than we are now?
Exactly right. But after these debates, my order changed to Huckabee, Cruz, and then Rubio. And so I would say that the debates have been good because for someone like me, I was Huckabee, Carson, Trump. Now I'm Huckabee, Cruz, Rubio. And Cruz is right there with Huckabee. I just love Governor Huckabee so much.
What happened to Carson?
He's probably down to number 4 or 5.
He's leading the polls by 6 points now.
He's dropped to my 4th guy because, I do think Carson would be a good president. I don't think he's the best pick. I think he's smart. I don't know if he has the backbone that we need and the willingness to stand in the fight like Rocky Balboa, the willingness to stand in there and take a hit, like say Cruz or Rubio has. Cruz is going to stand in there and go toe to toe. I think
because he's a former lawyer.
He's a lawyer. This is what he did. He's going to stand and he's going to get
lawyer.
Yes, he's going to get in the ring and fight. I think Huckabee would get in the ring and fight. I think Rubio would get in the ring and fight. I think Carson may try to dance around to not get in the ring in the first place.
Well, I think one of our biggest political agendas coming up is immigration. The only thing I worry about Cruz and Rubio, are they going to be tough on immigration?
I don't think Rubio will be.
We need to build a wall. That's just everybody else is in Europe. They're building. We need to build a wall.
I don't know about that.
We need to build a wall.
Let's have some disagreement here. I don't know about that because the Native Americans.
We got to build a wall.
How big of a wall?
Big wall.
What color?
Black.
It's black with barbed wire on top.
Barbed wire, razor wire.
The Native Americans didn't build a wall. And I'm glad that they didn't. Well, we'd come and knock it down.
Americans
Germany had a wall.
Build a wall.
Germany had a wall for the longest time. It wasn't a good thing.
And it worked.
It wasn't a
Walls work. The Great Wall of China. Why was that wall built?
Walls do work, but
to keep invaders
are
out.
walls a good thing?
Yes.
I think Christians...
In this day and age, yes.
Christians can put up walls in their lifestyle and keep other people out. And I don't think that's good. But as our nation as a whole, I don't think a wall... We need... I don't think walls are what we need. I think profiling is what we need. And to an ungodly level. We need to profile.
Well, you don't have enough agents to profile.
Then we need to...
They can't do it. You have to have, like Israel, build a wall to keep the bombers out. I think the day of the Statue of Liberty and Bring Me Your Free is over because we still take immigrants that come do it the right way, but because we're getting so inundated, and then the Muslims are coming up through Mexico and Canada, we have to build a wall.
They've come up from that way, but how blessed have we been by immigrants? You know, we've had so many people. Like, for example...
blessed by... We're all immigrants.
You were the one who said, Jack, exactly, and you were the one who said...
We're all immigrants.
You were talking about Rubio, I think it was, when you said... The reason you liked Rubio is because he's a second or third generation immigrant. Yeah. And how good would it be to have someone who knows firsthand? So now, are you retracting that?
I think he would be great at that. But then I worry about... Yes, I'm retracting that because I see that we're in trouble with immigration.
You're not going to keep these people out, Jack. You can put up a wall. You can do whatever you can. It's like with guns.
Israel
you can take guns away. You can take... They're still in there. They're still in there killing Israelites. They're still getting in there. You can take guns away from people. They're still going to kill people with guns. Well, you can put a wall up. You're keeping the honest, good people out. That's how I honestly feel about it.
Well, what Israel did, the people that are stabbing them now are people that are working there, that have work permits.
Exactly.
Legally. They've listened to the garbly goop of the Muslim extremists, and they're killing Israelis that they work for.
And I'm sure there's lots of good people who can't get in there now. That's the whole point I'm saying is it's like with guns. If you make guns illegal, you keep them out of honest people's hands. And so would you say too bad for the guns?
No, I don't think we should have gun laws. Yes, we got to have gun laws, but I don't think we should take guns away from people.
Well, if you put a wall up, you keep honest people from getting in, and the bad people, Jack, they're still going to get in there.
You keep the bad people out.
It won't keep the bad people out. You even said in Australia yourself that the guns were trickled back down to the society because they tried to funnel them, and the guns were just funneled to the bad people, and good people couldn't get in anymore. My point being, if you put a wall up, the good people can't get in, the bad people are still going to get in because they're going to break the law in the first place and do whatever it takes.
Well, at least there'll be I'm just going by what happened with Hungary, and they put up a wall and stopped the Syrians from coming over. Israel put up a wall. China put up a wall. Israel put up a wall. Nehemiah built a wall.
Yeah, Nehemiah built a wall, but the wall was to protect them from people who were trying to destroy their city.
Thank you.
Let me finish.
That's it.
That's the wall. So you're saying when they built the wall, nobody was allowed to come in at all? That's not true.
No,
good people still came.
There's gates to let people come in the right way.
I agree with that.
That's all I'm saying.
That's what you can do that by profiling or do that. There's some way you can do that.
To a way we can check them. If the borders are open, they can just come in.
Well, we're on the same page now.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I thought you were a heretic. Well, you still are a heretic. I thought you were crazy, and you're still crazy. And I am too. That's okay. We're back on the same page.
I'm a crazy loser.
Yes,
we've discovered today.
Yes, a Passion Church. Heretic of the Week, I think we're in unanimous agreement. Man, we've jumped all over the place.
And that's in Minneapolis.
We've not even covered half of this agenda, and it's already 53 minutes in.
Maple Grove, Minneapolis, if you want to visit.
Maple Grove, Indianapolis.
Minneapolis.
Maple Grove, Minneapolis.
And I'm sure every large city in the United States has a church called the Passion Church.
Yes, or the Passion Church, Church of Love.
Matter of fact, let's change the name of Inez First Baptist to the Passion Church. Would that make a difference?
Absolutely. This church is no more passionate than we are.
What is their passion?
Thriller.
To put on a great performance.
To let people dance around in zombies.
Tell people what their fears are. I tell you what our fears ought to be is fear God and fear sin. We've got to have people that are afraid to sin against God and fear Him and quit thumbing our nose at Him. I tell you, it's not.
Here we go. It's a non-denominational. Of course it is. We don't know what we believe, they say. It's It's a church that believes in Jesus, a church that loves God and loves people, a non-denominational church. And while Jack's bringing up the next item of agenda, I'm pulling up their sermon archives, and I'm interested. I want to hear whatever this guy is, what he's preaching. This is going to be interesting to say the least. Here it is. Let's listen.
Thanks for joining us for another inspirational message from Passion Church here in the Twin Cities. We are always so inspired to hear about what's happening.
She's got a
nose ring.
She's got a nose ring.
Please email us at amen@my.
I drove a Kia.
He drives a Kia.
He drives a Kia.
He's standing behind skulls.
The presence of God, like when we worship. When we
He's got
sing,
a
when
Captain
we pray,
Kangaroo
when we
jacket
come
on.
together,
I feel like
the Bible
Mystery
says that
Science
if 2 or
Theater
3
3000 or
gather
whatever it
together,
is.
then what? I'm there in the midst. That if you come together, it's like a lightning rod.
Whoa. Let me stop. He said, when 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm there in the midst. He took that totally out of context. Let's have some correcting and rebuking right now. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm sure he's a heretic. He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered, talking about worship, where 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm there in the midst. No, that's not what Jesus says in Matthew. You know what Jesus is talking about?
Tell us.
Jesus is talking about correcting and rebuking a brother. He says if a brother is in sin and he needs to be corrected or whatever, yada, 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 you go to him one-on-one and you try to set him straight. And he says if he won't listen to you, you take another person with you. And then he says you two try to correct him. And then he says, and if they won't listen then, you take 2 or 3 more with you. For where 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm in the midst thereof. Jesus is not talking about worship and assembly because one person can be in the presence of God, not just 2 or 3.
It's church discipline.
That's church discipline. So
Which not many churches practice.
this guy has no idea what context is. Let's continue on.
Context. Everything in context.
One
So
more
the text
sec. One
will be
more.
revealing what is the
Yes.
text of.
Let's listen for just a few more moments of this.
Presence of God, and God says,
That's
I'm going to
enough.
show up.
Okay.
And just as there are things that we can do that attract the presence of God, there's things that we can do that attract the presence of the enemy. There are things that
Like
we can
having
do
Thriller.
Yeah, they just
That's
attracted
why we
the
have to
enemy's
be
presence.
stewards over our home. That we have to be watchmen, carefully looking at what we bring into our
He's looking at his
here.
notes.
You know, somebody just drug you here, and you don't know where you are yet. But I want you to know that you're not here by chance. You're not here by circumstance. Like God.
I just want to point out that on the stage there are skulls,
Spiderwebs.
spider webs,
Mist.
all kinds of awful things. Do these
Purple
things
light.
belong on a pulpit? I don't want to listen to this guy anymore. But do those things belong on a pulpit?
I think it's a central place for the Word of God and for the preparing of the preacher and the congregation, I should say, to hear the Word of God. It should be holy.
People say, well, now Paul went and he quoted philosophical authors and did this, yada, yada, yada. Sure, but was the temple, when Jesus taught in the temple, do you think it was decorated with skulls and spider webs?
No.
Absolutely not. This is sad. And I will agree with Jack that they are the heretics of the week. Passion Church, Minneapolis. Heck, if you're ever up in Minneapolis, you want to see a free show, no admission cost, go watch this guy preach in his Kangaroo Jack. Jack, we probably have time for about one more item, don't we?
Antarctica ice is increasing by 135 billion tons per year, says NASA. The U.S. Space Agency research claims an increase in Antarctic snow accumulation that began 10,000 years ago is currently adding enough ice to the continent to outweigh the increased losses from the melting glaciers.
Huh.
Greenpeace founder Dr. Patrick Moore addressed the Global Warming Foundation in London on October 14th. That was just last month.
Wait, go back to this Antarctica thing.
Antarctica.
What is NASA saying exactly? That the Earth is repairing itself?
Yes.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Like God said it would.
So interesting to know, because when a person is starving to death,
Genesis 8:22.
when a person is starving to death, you know what happens is their body realizes they're starving, and so it starts switching its motive and its outlet, and it starts absorbing other things. People, their bodies kick into survival mode after the first 72 hours, I think it is. It kicks into survival mode, and it does different things in order to accommodate. Our bodies are made that way to survive. Call me crazy. I'd say the Earth is the same way.
The earth will survive.
Exactly.
God is going to destroy it by fervent heat, according to Peter.
Yes.
That's the only global warming in the Bible. I unequivocally disagree completely with global warming. Of course, they don't call it that anymore because there is no global
Call it
warming.
climate
They call it
change.
climate change. Let me read this article by Patrick Moore. It may run us over a little bit, but we've got to read this. Greenpeace founder Dr. Patrick Moore addressed the Global Warming Foundation in London on October 14th, as I said. He is the founder of Greenpeace, Dr. Patrick Moore, in 1971. Let's Celebrate CO2 was the title of his speech. He gives the most shocking and fact-filled speech ever given about the fallacy of climate change. From the founder of Greenpeace. He is not a Christian. Greenpeace was founded by him to combat nuclear testing and the fallout from that in 1971. He is a geologist, world-renowned. He states that if it were not for fossil fuels and their output of CO2 in the last 50 years, we would not have had enough CO2 in the atmosphere to sustain plant life and feed the people that we've been able to feed. Crops. Right now, we only have 500 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. We need 2,000 parts per million to sustain enough agriculture to feed the world. In the past 50 years, we've been able to grow record crops and have yielded record plant growth due to contributions of CO2 from fossil fuels. If we continue on this trend of getting rid of carbon emissions from fossil fuels, people will die due to starvation because crops will not grow, and people will freeze to death because they cannot afford to heat their homes without cheap fossil fuels. He gives a dire warning to the world. If we continue to get away from fossil fuels, we are shortening the life of this earth by a great margin, and we are ushering in another ice age. Did CNN, NBC give anything about this great man, Dr. Patrick Moore, this great scientist? Wouldn't say he's a great man, but he's a great scientist, founder of Greenpeace.
And he says we need fossil fuels.
We have to have fossil fuels to keep enough CO2 in the atmosphere. Yet next month, our president is leading the way in a climate change summit in Paris. Our president, who wants to be known as the man who saved the planet. Not the policeman of the world.
You think he wants to be known by that?
Yes, I think he wants to be the man who saved the planet. And I think he wants to cause a calamity so that he can be president.
Do you think so? Now,
Yes.
Jack's I think he's starting to lose his mind a little bit here. So
I want some pink Oreos.
He has lost his mind. He's really lost it. You must not have eaten lunch yet, have you? I'm starving.
But anyway, what do you think about that?
Well, here's what I think.
How much time do we have?
We've got about 2 minutes. Here's what I think about that.
We haven't done our...
I lost my train of thought halfway through that.
Good.
I started thinking about a bacon cheeseburger. That's what... No,
we haven't done our Tribulation Index.
Well, we did it last week. Are we going to upgrade our score? Has yours changed over the week?
Yeah, a little bit, but we can do that next week.
What do I think about that? I'm sorry. What do I think about that? Well, I think that even this man realizes fossil fuel. I don't know what parts per million is. I mean, I have trouble remembering my own name on days. I'm definitely not the most scientific person that there is.
There has to be so much CO2 in the atmosphere for plants to grow.
I hated science in high school. I didn't like science or math.
It loved you.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. And I didn't care.
You didn't lose.
I lost too much in science. That's
Go
what
ahead.
it was.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that fossil fuels are necessary for this part of the world to thrive. And I think fossil fuels, the lack of bringing them out and producing them like we once did, has killed this part of the world.
Yeah.
It's killed our economy. It's killed our jobs. People have moved off, and Columbus has gotten even better because more of our people have went up there. But I think fossil fuels are necessary, and I think, obviously, like Patrick Moore says, that they keep costs down. When fossil fuel is the cheap way, it's cheaper than any other method of fueling that you can get. It's cheap. We need to continue to rely on coal. God has blessed us, Jack. God has blessed us with natural resources, cheap natural resources. Why don't we use them? Because why are we not using them and having them?
Because there's a one world government agenda, and they can control the world if they
control the fossil fuels. I agree with that.
And keep us from using it, and people can die. They say that climate change will help save the poor. How? When they can't afford to heat their homes, when they can't afford to live. They have this grandiose idea that windmill power is going to save us. That's cheap, but it's not enough. You have to build hydroelectric dams. Well, who wants to have their land taken by a hydroelectric dam? And those things are expensive. What about a nuclear power plant? That's cheap energy. Who wants to live next to a nuclear power plant?
And if you can't afford, if you
build
can't afford energy and stuff for your home, someone else has to pay for it, and the government has to take care of it, and you now work for them. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary to see how all this plays out. And Jack is probably a little more in tune with end time events than I am.
But you're getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm being educated. And here's why. I'm tired of losing. Jack's tired of losing.
Tired of it. We're winners in Jesus.
That's exactly right. Maybe if you're a loser today and you're listening, it's okay to lose, right?
I'm with you.
It's okay to lose.
But we're winners in Christ. We'll never lose again after we put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ. Never.
That's right. It's okay to for us to lose, and just to quote what Jack says, just to quote what Jack says, there's nothing wrong with losing. Well, I'm done. There's nothing wrong with losing.
Okay, that's Sam Schmitz. That was him you were listening to. Was that you? Yes,
yeah, it was me.
That was Sam. I'm Jack Ward. Thanks for listening. This has been Words of Truth.
Words of Truth podcast. God bless you. Like us, comment, follow, subscribe. Come back and listen next week.
Okay, great. Come back next week. See you then.